The nondescript building behind me is a slaughterhouse. As you can imagine, there are myriad rules governing the slaughtering of animals that takes place behind these walls. Now, the ostensible reason for those regulations is to ensure public safety. Case in point, after an animal is slaughtered, the meat is immediately refrigerated at a temperature of 7 degrees Celsius or less for a period of at least 24 hours. This refrigeration procedure is done in order to minimize the potential multiplication of harmful bacteria in carcasses and raw meat products. The idea is to reduce consumer exposure to pathogenic bacteria. All of these rules are outlined under Section 83 of Ontario's Food and Safety Quality Act. But recently, Rebel.media was tipped off by an insider. Incredibly, not all Ontario farmers are being governed by the same set of rules. Some farmers are being granted exemptions to the refrigeration regulations, apparently on the basis of reasonable accommodation. Disturbingly, these food handling exemptions are being granted even though public safety is potentially being compromised. For example, if you are a Muslim farmer and you are slaughtering animals for the purpose of Eid celebrations, you are actually exempt from the regulations under Section 83 that mandate immediate cooling of freshly slaughtered meat. In other words, you can transport the hot meat immediately after slaughter, something that is strictly forbidden if you're a non-Muslim farmer. Indeed, it turns out for the last 7 years, Ontario has allowed religious and/or cultural stipulations to override its food safety rules. The Ministry of Agriculture even outlines the exemption to its own rules in a pamphlet entitled Eid Mubarak. The pamphlet is subtitled, "What You Need to Know to Get Safe Inspected Meat from a Provincially Licensed Meat Plant to Celebrate with Your Family and Friends." But the use of the word safe seems odd given that our whistleblower tells us the Eid exemptions to standard meat handling provisions actually have the potential to put the public at risk. As for those need-to-know tips found in the pamphlet, such as storing meat in a cooler during transport, well, these are merely suggestions, not requirements. So a fundamental question arises. Why indeed are Muslims exempt from the province's slaughterhouse food safety provisions during Eid? Well, we tried to find out. Unfortunately, Jeff Leal, the Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, declined to be interviewed. As well, no representatives at the ministry would come on camera to answer our questions. The ministry would only provide written responses via email. One of our first questions was the following. Since religious and cultural considerations do not alter biology, should Ontario consumers be concerned that there are exemptions being given to existing slaughterhouse procedures for non-scientific reasons? But the answer provided was a non-answer. The ministry stated, quote, "The province's food safety and animal welfare laws ensure that meat products from provincial meat plants are inspected so that all Ontarians can have confidence in the food they eat," end quote. As well, the ministry repeated this non-answer verbatim when we asked if there was any process preventing a farmer from simply claiming he or she is Muslim in order to circumvent existing slaughterhouse rules. We weren't getting anywhere with our queries to the ministry, but our whistleblower, who wants to remain anonymous, he had plenty to say. Specifically, the slaughterhouse double standard based on religious rationale in a supposedly secular province is an outrage, not to mention potentially dangerous. Said he, "I was never allowed to remove my slaughtered pigs before they had cooled sufficiently, even though it would have been preferable for my distribution business. And if such a practice is not safe for non-Muslim Ontarians, then how can it be safe for Muslim Ontarians? Religion does not alter biology." Our source is also concerned that non-Muslim Ontarians might inadvertently consume halal meat in restaurants that does not conform to the food safety regulations other farmers have to follow. And worse yet, there's no way a consumer would know how that meat was processed. When it comes to Ontario's slaughterhouse double standard, yet another fundamental question arises. What is it about Eid that requires Muslims to seek exemptions from modern food safety regulations in the first place? Well, this is where our story takes a bizarre twist. Inexplicably, the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs didn't have an answer to this question. A spokeswoman with the ministry suggested we address this query to a, quote, Muslim organization in order to receive a proper answer. Well, we did just that. We contacted Amira El-Gawabi, the communications director with the National Council of Canadian Muslims. We asked her why Muslim farmers require slaughterhouse exemptions during Eid. And her answer was shocking. Said she, there is no religious cultural provision in Islam that requires slaughtered meat not to be refrigerated prior to Eid, end quote. So in other words, it would appear that the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs is granting an exemption to food safety regulations when no exemptions are required in the first place. When we asked the ministry which individual or which organization originally lobbied the government to receive exemptions to the slaughtering rules, the ministry declined to provide this information. So in the final analysis, even for those who believe in the concept of reasonable accommodation, there has always been a proviso that public safety trumps all, that the health and well-being of citizens is paramount. But this is clearly not the case when it comes to Ontario's slaughterhouse rules if you happen to be a member of a certain religion, which apparently doesn't even require such an exemption in the first place. Let's hope that in the future, nobody becomes critically ill due to E. coli or some other pathogen in the food chain, all thanks to the Government of Ontario's belief that political correctness should trump food safety procedures and even science itself. For the Rebel.media, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.